Hey guys, Harv here, and welcome back to our That's No Moon base in the one and only Kerbal space program. This is the follow-up episode to, obviously, the previous episode. This is episode 8, and in this episode we have a number of jobs we're going to do. First of all, we just need to, we need to obviously plant a flag. I mean, what else? We've just ported over to version 0.20.1, I believe, because although 0.2 was actually out, I actually haven't bothered to update to it yet. I will do, but apparently it fixes memory, it fixes how much memory the flags use or something, which isn't really affecting me, so I didn't see any major need to actually go for that. So you may have noticed, although you probably won't because I'm trying to make it unobtrusive, the music in the background isn't actually Kerbal's space program game music. Why is this, Harvey? Well, reason being that DxTory, which is the recording software I use, that's DxTory, I used that for this video, as I do for every other video now, and it had a tantrum, and so it decided it didn't want to record any game sound. And that includes the music. So here is some background music supplied by Audio Micro, which I have actually used the music of before with some great comedic effect. But anyway, jobs. So we have a couple of things in orbit we need to sort out. We have the sky crane kind of thing of this module, our living quarters. We don't need the module, so we'll bin that. What we want to do, oh hello. What we want to do is build this grabber thing Mark 1, which I'm going to be building. And yeah, this is the view. It's the moon. That's no moon base where I use viewer submitted modules. This isn't a utility. This is just something. This is a design I had in my head for a while, and I wanted a reason to use it, and now I found one. So how it works is basically it's just really simple kind of claw, and then the fingers close shut as the landing gear opens, because those wheels do actually collide, and they actually can bring things down. And judging from the dimensions of this part we have up here in the orbit, it seems pretty perfect, to be honest. It seems like a pretty good situation to use this design in. So it's basically just a command pod, some fuel, mainly RCS in terms of propulsion, which is why we got a big tank. Normally I wouldn't be caught dead using that much RCS. I mean, seriously. I see people who just like to slap these tanks on. It's like you really don't need RCS. Unless you're doing docking, you really don't need RCS. And well, yeah, that's a bit of an overestimate. Unless you're doing something specifically you need RCS for, you don't need RCS, and certainly don't need it in any massive amount of quantity. So there we go, this is our ship, just using the exact same launch stage as the one the living quarters themselves actually used. Reason being that we actually can now. We don't have to build everything from scratch when we change the command module. We can just swap over, we can just keep the part and we can keep any other part we want and just swap the actual command pod itself and build this grabber thing on top. So that's quite useful, although later on when I'm doing something else I will be using my own launch stage. This new design that I've become quite happy about. It's basically asparagus staging exactly how we've used it here, except you miss out a pair of engines. So it's basically drop tank and asparagus, and the way I've started doing it now is if you have 3 pairs of tanks and engines, the first pair you drop has engines as well, so you're actually dropping your first 2 engines out of the 5 in total you're using. The next pair doesn't have engines, so it's just drop tanks, and then the final pair does have engines, so you're dropping the 2 out of the final 3 using, and then you carry on with just 1. And it works out to be pretty fuel efficient because you need the thrust to start off with to actually get you any way up in the air because you're carrying so much weight. But then once you've drained that entire pair, you can kind of go on, even with the extra weight of the second pair, you can kind of go on with just 3 mainsail engines. So it seems to work. So now we have a job. Now we need to get into orbit around the moon, which is what we're doing right about now. There we go. And we need to rendezvous. We need to rendezvous with this. So we can do this by bringing down our orbit using the new, well, not the new map system, but the map system to see what our closest intersect is. And there we go, get something reasonable. Of course we're coming up to a node because our inclination isn't the same, so when we change that, it should get closer together still. just spin north, and it actually gets further away. The weird thing about changing orbits, because we weren't actually pointing at the normal, we were pointing at north. If we were pointing at the normal, it would have only had to get closer. And because we weren't, the normal being a right angle to your orbit, whereas we were pointing at a right angle to the equator when we point north. So it actually increased our orbital velocity slightly, which means that, you know, the insect changed. There's a bit of orbital physics for you. So we're bringing it in closely. And what we want, as we've actually now swapped to our probe thing that we delivered the bullseye station with, we're using this to get in close at the same time. Now, what I had in my head, the plan I didn't really think about, I just kind of formulated on the fly. The plan I had was to grab the floating nuclear stage of the living quarters with this grabber that we're controlling right now, and then I was to use the RCS on board to move it over and dock it with the probe that we have right here that we're controlling right now. And then everything, I would either use the engines on the probe to send it back to Kerbal and to deorbit it into the ocean there, or I would just deorbit it straight onto the moon. Now, straight onto the moon is much easier, but of course if I'm deorbiting it straight onto the moon, I kind of don't really need to dock it. There's actually no point in docking with the probe, because the probe has enough fuel to deorbit itself, and the grabber has some liquid fuel on board, and RCS by itself would be enough fuel to deorbit from the moon orbit we're currently in. Remembering this is only 15 kilometers up, really not very far. And in fact, it's actually quite low enough that if you're down on the surface of the moon, just doing a little bit of time acceleration, say that much that we just did there, if you're down on the surface at the base, you just see the icons whipping overhead. It's pretty funny. Of course, timing it so they actually move by at real-time speed is hard because they go by so quickly, being in such a low orbit. So, right. Everything's going to plan so far. We have a grabber here, we have these three things floating beside each other, nothing too far away, so that as we come behind our Moon Motel remodeled Mark II ship, we should be able to just reach forward, grab it, and then dock backwards and get with the probe. Obviously things never go quite to plan, so we'll get behind it, we shall just try and point it the same way. Of course we can't control the remodeled ship because, well, it's not got any command module system on it, and there's no one to control it, and there's no probe to control it, and if there was any probe it wouldn't have any energy to control it. So this is why we're using this. We get it in, and we are about as far forwards, open up landing gear, and we'll start spinning. Wait, is this the plan? No, we're just gonna spin. We just feel like it for some reason. I'm trying to use RCS to slow down, but I think there's some torque from the command module on this remodeled ship, because as soon as we go up to ×2 warp for some reason, it flies off. There we go. There's another piece of debris in orbit. The command module, in case you didn't see that, just decided it wanted to get out of the situation, so it flew off. It detached itself from the fuel tank and just went spiraling off into space. Yeah, we're going to have to do something about that later. I don't know, I kind of have OCD, as you all know, so I don't really like the idea of leaving random things floating in orbit. So, yes, there's the thing flying away, that icon, that pink icon up there, and closer, if we shall turn to point to it, we see just out of the blackness is our grabber. So it hasn't really gone to plan. I mean, we have to go and recover or destroy that command pod. Probably destroy it. That might be a fun utility, some destroying mechanism. But I don't know, we might decide to grab it, because grabbers are quite fun to play around with. Even though they're frustrating, they do take quite a while to get working. Luckily this thing worked first time. So the bullseye station probe is over there, and I'm still kind of going for the plan that, okay, we're going to dock with the bullseye station probe, and we're going to use its engine, plus any fuel we've got on board here, which we actually have quite a lot. We're going to use them to take everything back to Kerbal. So we'll see how that goes. As we have our thing, we're desperately trying to use RCS to get over there. Now in any normal situation, I'm docked with this thing, so I can just use, you know, I can time accelerate to get over to where I want to be. We can't time accelerate with this. We can do physics warp, although that's a bit dangerous. We can't time accelerate because when you go into that time warp phase, collision stops. And the only thing keeping us attached, or pseudo-attached, to this probe we're hauling around is actually collision. So we can use physics warp because that still allows us to process the physics of the collision, but time warp is a no-no, which means most maneuvers that usually are done in a few seconds take quite a while. So bring it down. Oh, I just did time warp for a second then. Nearly. Haha, nearly forgot. Yeah, I was on the verge of forgetting. So we bring this in, and it just occurs to me, just as soon as we do this, that hang on. How the hell are we supposed to... Oh yeah, and there's the time warp that I forgot about. Bugger. How am I supposed to dock this to that thing? I actually can't, because those engines on the probe are really, really high up. So there's no docking because we don't have a way to dock. The fuel tanks are going to get in the way, and the nose cones are going to get in the way because we don't have any things sticking out. So instead, we're going to deorbit it, and we've done our burn, we've brought our periapsis down. Now we're thrusting backwards, trying to get out using RCS. Come on, we've detached. Stop spinning. Okay, fine. Fine, you're on a collision course, it doesn't matter. We'll get the guy out, we'll fly him over to this probe. We burnt, we did our burn, they must be going down towards the ground now, so we'll just leave them, and we'll get towards this probe, and we'll come closer for no reason. Hang on, there's actually nothing we can do here with this person. Why did we just spend that fuel? Let's go over to the Bullseye Station. I think the Bullseye Station might actually have somewhere for this guy to go. Oh, I've got a question. Do hitchhiker storage containers refuel EVA packs? Because I'm not entirely sure they do. I'm not sure, but I like to hope they are doing that, because we may need EVA fuel, and a lot of it in the future. We have yet to actually deorbit a Kerbal from the moon's orbit by themselves, which is the idea of the cannons. So there we go, the probe fell down and it destroyed itself, but the grabber thing is still in orbit, and so is this probe bit, which apparently didn't break anything. But yeah, they're both still in orbit, and we don't know why. They're really low orbit, admittedly, but I think the reason is, we did our burn, we definitely deorbited them, they were definitely on a collision course, and then, when we were trying to detach this grabber thing from the main probe, we actually thrusted backwards using RCS, which increased our orbital velocity again. But never mind. On to the second part. We've kind of finished off in orbit. We don't really have anything else there we want to do, at least not right now. So it's time to come over to our base. We have taken this guy out of the communications beacon, because it turns out that has a command module on it that we just had two guys sitting in, and we're actually going to bring him over, do some acrobatics, and we'll bring him over into the living quarters like he should be, seeing as these are the living quarters, we're not really using them for anything else. And time to get Sondorf Kerman out of his spot in that command module. And hang on, what was our first objective that we said in this video? Flags! We have flags! Why don't we, why don't we actually go plant a flag? I think that might be quite a good idea. So we'll bring it round. We shall just come in front of this window, because it'd be nice to be able to go in there and see the flag flapping in the non-existent breeze. And we shall plant the glorious Kerbal Space Program flag. Hang on. Okay, yeah, glorious flag, alright, but I kind of want my own design. My Union Jeb, that I'm still way too proud of, because it isn't very good really, but I like it, I just like the idea of it. So yeah, we've planted the flag, and even though I've set the flag in this universe as the Union Jeb, it turns out that the flag that the Kerbals are actually carrying gets remembered. So if you set your flag as Kerbal Space Program default, and then you fly a mission, or alternatively, if you have a .19 save and you port it into .20, all the Kerbals will have, all the Kerbals who were on that mission or pre-.20 will have the default flag, whereas anything you launch now should have the flag you've currently selected. So let's load up our lookout tower, submitted by some guy on the forums, which I'm going to find out right now. Yes, it's a lookout tower. It's not what I was looking for, but then again, I didn't actually look for anything. The construction brief currently is submit something cool, any utility you like, because I was kind of out of ideas in the last episode. But this works. I'm quite happy someone submitted this. So let me find out who it was, as we'll do some testing. It was submitted by Mr. J44HM. Sorry, that's Yar. Mr. Yar. Yes, Yar. It was submitted by Mr. Yar. And look at that shadow. Look at that shadow in the background on the floor there. That looks quite cool, actually. Submitted by Mr. Yar, we have the lookout tower. He actually submitted a few different stations, but this was the one I kind of wanted. So here we go. This is the launch stage I was talking about, with 4 outside engines, 1 pair of drop tanks, and 1 inner engine. And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, seeing as it is the Kerbal Space Program, there we go, the first pair of engines dropped, and now we're down to 3. This actually looks like more of an interplanetary rocket, or more of a rocket full stop, than most rockets do. I mean, my payload, my current launch station, my launch stage, is basically a collection of tanks. And that's all there really is to it, simple. Whereas this thing, because of the landing bits, which I've made some slight adjustments to, I've added engines and I've made the landing, not legs, the landing panels a bit wider, so it doesn't fall over so easily. That actually makes it look like it's a proper ship, as if it's actually a proper, you know, rocket all the way through, rather than just a tower with no fuel in it. So here we go, we've got this thing into an orbit, we've time accelerated before launch, so we actually can immediately go into our transfer. Something I've been doing a lot recently. I've actually just been just not launching. If I'm going for the moon, there's no point launching and then waiting in orbit. I just want to immediately get going. And I might be doing something about that in the future. It made me think before I started commentating this video just now, I could actually do the quickest time to the moon and back. Because, I mean, like, in-game time as well. I have a good idea how I would make it as quick as possible. So, maybe something for the future. But there we go, we'll bring our periapsis down to about 20 kilometers, turn backwards, and start burning retrograde to bring our orbit down, get into our orbit, there we go. And now we can do some time accelerating round after we change our inclination. There we go, pointing north to just bring that round enough. And there we go, right. So we'll get round to just ahead of our thing, and it's actually taking quite a lot of time to do that in game time. Plus, it's on the dark side currently. But the reason for that is it was below 20 kilometers or so, so it was actually requiring only 10. It was only allowing us to go up to 10 times speed. The reason it didn't look very slow is because this video is currently sped up to 4 times. So yeah. I decided to switch over, do a bit of time warping on the ground, and then swap back. Now we've deorbited, and our trajectory, after some inclination changing again, is taking us down right on top of the station. Our middle stage here that we're using is actually a skipper engine. I really like it. I really do like the skipper engine. It just seems to work. You know, it just seems to work. It's a perfect blend between thrust and efficiency for carrying larger payloads. This thing weighs 24 units, although it's more like 27 due to my additions, and it has 32 parts, so not actually that many. Now what I want to do is bring it down, and I want to try and hover using the main engine and then use RCS to translate where I want, because that will give me a bit more of an accurate landing site, because I need to be on the other side of the hangar. I mean the beacon. I need to be on the other side of the beacon. Why? Because the beacon is supposed to be the center. Look at our arrangement of utilities currently. Everything is on the opposite side of the beacon to the Neil Armstrong Memorial, which is another thing I want to include in this base. I want to try and use it for something. Having that solid structure there, which isn't going to move, may yield some interesting results. So I'm bringing this round. I'm bringing it on the other side of the beacon, thank you very much. And we're going to bring it down, land it, swap back to 2 times acceleration. Just so we get the final bits of the video in a bit of a longer period of time. And there we go, landed down on the floor. And now we can enjoy the solidity that it's falling over. What? What? Why? Why is it doing that? I was gonna say the solidity that our panels will give us, but no. In fact, the panels are actually sinking directly through the floor. Oh, and everything's bouncing around. This is why they invented landing legs. Why didn't I just use landing legs? Why? More importantly, why didn't ya just use landing legs, ya? Why didn't you just use them? So, yeah, we have panels. And also we have an antenna quite right on top. This communications, or this lookout tower, is made of, you know, two 180-degree rotated, or one of them is 180-degree rotated cupola pods, which actually give us no visibility whatsoever. I'm going to have to do something about that. I'm going to have to find a way for us to look down on our base from this tower. It's not particularly tall. I mean, it is tall and everything else, but in terms of visibility and I don't know. Oh yeah, and we fell off and we didn't die, which is lucky. Because this guy's our flag bearer. We need this guy. Because we've launched and we've now got the Union Jeb in his backpack. And so we're going to bring him around. We're going to plop him down right here. Come in front of this window once again. And we shall right click, plant the flag. Dubstep. Yeah. I don't need to explain myself to you. I found this music. I like it. It's just like perfect space tune and then dubstep. Which is quite funny actually. So here we go. We are launching, or we are planting our flag. This is the end of the video. What do I want in the next video? I know I would like a fuel reserve. I want some ground-based tanks. Now the maximum mass for this is going to still be... I'm going to up it to 40. You're allowed up to 40 units of mass. I just want big, simple fuel tanks. Okay? Can you do that for me? Please do. I want big, simple fuel tanks. They need to be dockable by Rover. And also try and think of something else that might be useful for us. And that is pretty much all there is. As always, link to the submission thread is in the description. They won't be accepted if you send them via personal message via YouTube, because some people have. And that is the end of our video. Please do click that link in the description and go view the construction brief. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.